Shin Yasuda wraps up class by telling the students to enjoy their summer while they can, since next year will be all about exams. Afterward, Yuki calls Yasuda hot but complains that he ruins it by talking too much. I guess crushing on teachers is a universal experience. Hori agrees but tells everyone to ignore him. When Honoka asks if something happened, Hori explains that Yasuda tried to cheer her up by saying he loves flat-chested girls and she should have more confidence. That's a sign of an intellectually superior man. Everyone is baffled. Yuki then asks if she can share Hori's number with a guy from another school, but Hori refuses, saying if he couldn't ask her himself, he's not worth it. Yeah, say no to femboys. Toru suggests karaoke with his expiring coupons. Yuki gets excited, but Hori declines. As she stands up, she drops her phone, and Miyamura silently hands it back. Yuki jokes that he might be an otaku, but Toru says he doesn't know much since Miyamura barely has friends. Definitely relatable. At home, Hori gets a call from her mom asking her to handle dinner. She picks up Sota from school, and on the way home, they pass by Miyamura, though she doesn't recognize him. Later, Sota comes home with a nosebleed and Hori panics until she notices Miyamura standing with him. Embarrassed, she thanks Miyamura and invites him in, even though she doesn't recognize him. When Miyamura introduces himself, Hori is shocked at how different he looks outside school. The next day, Hori can't stop glancing at Miyamura, still trying to process his transformation. Hannah Montana from Temuwa Moment. Feeling awkward, she invites him back to her house, saying Sota would love to see him again. Using her younger brother to get chicks is diabolical. Miyamura agrees and admits he thought she'd avoid him after their weird first meeting. She reassures him and teases him when he blushes. They start hanging out, and Hori learns Miyamura hides his piercings at school. He has 4 in each ear and 1 on his lip. He likes manga but avoids overly cute stuff. His family runs a cake shop, and he pierced himself with a safety pin in middle school. Self-harm, but make it emo. When Hori sees his grades, she jokes that guys with glasses are supposed to be smart, but Miyamura clearly missed the memo. Flustered, he can only laugh. Hori gets excited about a sale on eggs and plans to stock up, but the sale ends at 4 p.m., and a council meeting ruins her plans. She sends Miyamura instead, who sprints and jumps fences to make it in time. That's husband material right there. Exhausted, he brings the eggs home, and Hori makes dinner. During dinner, Hori blurts out that she does not want anyone else to see this side of Miyamura, then awkwardly tells him to forget she said it. Later, Miyamura admits he feels the same way about her, saying moments like these feel like they belong only to him. Hori gets flustered, calls him dumb repeatedly, and Sota laughs along with Miyamura. The next day, Miyamura shows Hori his tattoos, explaining he skipped swinging in PE to avoid trouble. Yuki and Toru talk about how close Miyamura and Hori have become. While they're chatting, a classmate asks Hori for her notes, so she leaves. Toru seizes the moment to talk to Miyamura about how popular Hori is and asks if they're dating. Miyamura denies it and comments that they aren't really a good match. Miyamura quickly realizes Toru likes Hori and confronts him about it. Toru confirms that he does like her. Folded under zero pressure. As they talk, a classmate reminds them it's time for PE in the locker room. Toru asks why Miyamura wears so many layers in summer. Left with no excuse, Miyamura unzips his jacket, revealing his tattoos and piercings. Later on roof, Toru admits he plans to confess to Hori and asks for Miyamura's permission. She hits him, yelling about who will wake her up or help eat leftovers if he stops coming over. Eventually, Hori admits she rejected Toru. When Miyamura tries to defend him, Hori jokes that he should date Toru if he cares so much. I would definitely pay to see some steaming bromance. At school, Toru comes to Miyamura with red-rimmed eyes. Yuki notices their weird interaction and asks what's going on, but Hori jokes that one of them might be asking the other out, leaving Yuki hilariously confused. Hori and Miyamura are walking home with groceries when Miyamura overhears Hori quietly singing along to an anime song. He compliments her, but she awkwardly denies it, explaining she only knows the lyrics because Sota plays it nonstop. Later, at home, Hori's mom surprises her by being home early and immediately asks about Miyamura. When Sota calls him cool, her mom asks if he's cute. Got straight to the point, can't let family genes get compromised. Hori describes him as a dark villain from a detective movie, leaving her mom completely confused. Her mom jokes about chatting with Miyamura one-on-one, which makes Hori suspicious. Hori realizes she doesn't know Miyamura's first name when her mom asks about it, and instead of simply asking, tries ridiculous methods to figure it out. She is just a girl. She peeks into the boys' changing room, scans academic posters, and even asks Toru, who bursts into tears about his unhealed heart and runs away. Her FBI agent character was interrupted by Toru's soap opera. Frustrated, Hori goes home, where her mom casually asks if Miyamura will be visiting tomorrow. When Hori says yes, her mom gets way too excited, and Hori realizes this might be her chance to learn his name. The next day, her mom sends her on fake errands and chats with Miyamura alone and asks his name. Nothing hits harder than being backstabbed by your own mother. She then leaves for work. When Hori comes back, she finds out her mom tricked her to go out so she could be alone with him. Later, Miyamura notices Hori acting weird and asks what's going on. She confesses her whole scheme, and he bursts out laughing. Sota joins in, calling her lame, and they both tease her until she snaps Miyamura, then calmly writes down his name, Izumi Miyamura, and teaches her how to pronounce it. So communication is the key after all? Who would have guessed? Hori awkwardly calls him Izumi once but decides to stick to his last name because it feels less awkward. When she asks him if he knows her first name, he tells her immediately, making her feel even more stupid. At school, Hori is overloaded with work from the student council even though she's not part of it. Her friends wonder if she's being used. Later, Miyamura is accidentally knocked over by one of the student council members, Remi Ayasaki. He realizes that she dropped and left behind the budget report. The next day, Hori is getting scolded by the council president, Sengoku, for losing the budget report. Miyamura, absolutely done, headbutts Sengoku. Sakura quickly intervenes, and Miyamura calmly hands over the missing report, leaving everyone stunned. The council members apologize immediately. When Toru asks Miyamura why he headbutted Sengoku if he already had the papers, Miyamura shrugs and says he was just really pissed. Later, it's revealed that Hori is doing all the council's work because Sengoku has dirt on her from when she used to bully him as a kid. Damn, karma hit her hard. The next day, Sengoku is so terrified of Miyamura he can't even look him in the eye. As the school year ends, Miyamura gives Hori a CD for her birthday. Hori reflects on her life with him around and briefly wonders what life would be like without him. Miyamura thought back to his childhood, always the odd one out, standing alone during group work, while his classmates paired up. They called him weird, and no one wanted to be his partner. Even in high school, things stayed the same. He pierced his ear with a safety pin around that time. Every villain has a sob story. He also recalled an interaction he had with Hori where she introduced herself to him because they were paired to do a class report together. In the present, the new school year starts, and everyone checks the academic board for their classes. Miyamura and Toru are in the same class, and Toru excitedly calls it the power of love. Sounds like the power of awkward bromance instead. Overhearing, some girls suspect they might be dating. Hori arrives, and Miyamura tells her, teary-eyed, that rumors are spreading about him. Rumors spreading faster than my will to live on a Monday morning. They all laugh, and while the group chats, Miyamura spaces out, wondering if he truly belongs. During their first class, the teacher asks everyone to form groups of 4. Miyamura flashes back to always being left out as a kid. This time, though, Toru, Hori, and Yuki pull their desks together with him, assigning tasks for the project. It feels nostalgic yet unfamiliar, making him wonder if they're really friends. Later, Miyamura and Toru talk, and Miyamura asks what Toru thinks of him. Toru calls it creepy, asks something like that with a straight face and teases him, saying that him being close to Hori is really frustrating and annoying. Understandable, it's hard to see the love of your life pick a guy she met a week ago over you. He adds that Miyamura is too nice sometimes, so he has to watch out for him. And then before leaving he finally calls him weird. As Toru leaves, Miyamura thinks to himself that everything will be okay and wishes he could go back 10 years to tell his younger self that. When Miyamura and Toru return to class, Hori scolds them for not finishing their report during lunch. This girl is always on the spectrum. When she demands to know where they were, Toru casually says they were on the roof, affirming their friendship. Hori keeps scolding them until Yuki cracks a joke, making her laugh. The next morning, Sota wakes up ridiculously early, excited to meet his friend Yuna. Because of him, Hori has to leave for school way too early and ends up sitting alone in the empty cafeteria. While she's reflecting on how grown-up Sota's gotten, Remy shows up, thinking there's a morning assembly. Then, out of nowhere, she asks Hori if she and Miyamura are dating. Hori denies it, so Remi asks if she can have him. Objectifying men is so goated. Flustered, Hori blurts out that Miyamura is hers and no one else can have him. Girl, pick a side. The argument escalates until other students walk in and Hori bolts, embarrassed. Later, at home, Hori finds Sota's mess in the living room again. Miyamura arrives and makes tea with. She compliments the tarts he brought earlier, and Miyamura casually reveals he made them himself. So he cooks, bakes, and fights. This man is basically on the wish list of all women. They settle in to watch a horror movie, and Miyamura is hilariously terrified. When there's a sudden blackout, he panics even more, and Hori has to reassure him. The lights come back, and Hori teasingly insists they'll now watch all 5 parts of the horror series. Who doesn't like women with a little sadistic edge? Miyamura is less than thrilled. Afterward, they compare hand sizes and Hori wraps her fingers around his. Ah, the classical move in the history of romance books. She awkwardly mutters, "I love you," then immediately backpedals, saying she meant she loves her hands. Good save. Miyamura, after a pause, says he loves hers too, keeping things delightfully awkward. The next day, Toru overhears Remi gossiping about Hori's cafeteria outburst. Later, Hori is shocked to see Miyamura walk into class with a bruise on his face. When she asks what happened, he casually says he fought Toru. That's when Toru walks into class, and he has even more bruises all over his face. Completely thrown, Hori confronts Toru while Miyamura chats with Yuki. Hori asks Toru about the fight, but he avoids getting details. Being in a WWE competition with your bro is fine, but telling on his secrets is where the line is drawn. He thinks about how things spiraled when he was trying to convince Miyamura that Hori likes him, Miyamura punching him out of reflex when he got too close. Toru hit him back, and that's when Miyamura got pissed and beat the shit out of him. He is my type. He just tells Hori that he pushed Miyamura too far. Later, Yuki and Hori discuss the fight. Hori tries to figure out the reason, but Yuki keeps quiet, honoring her promise to Miyamura. Meanwhile, Miyamura finds Toru on the balcony, ready to clear the air. Toru is walking when Sakura accidentally drops a pile of papers from the building above. They exchange a glance before Sakura apologizes. Toru gathers the papers and takes them back to her. All he wants is romance, but all he gets is random side quests. While handing them over, he asks if handling the council work alone is hard. Sakura assures him that Remi and Sengoku help when they can. They chat for a bit, and Sakura thanks him for helping. Later, Miyamura brings Toru an ice cream on a hot summer day. Toru is excited when he hears Hori sent it, but his enthusiasm fades when he realizes it's melon-flavored and he can't eat melon. Natural selection. Spotting Sengoku nearby, they give him the ice cream instead of letting it go to waste. Using the president of the student council as their personal trash can gives them aura points. Sengoku and Hori eat it, laughing about how their tongues turn different colors. Toru, feeling left out, sticks his tongue out to tease them, and they joke about how long it is. So what's Toru's number? Asking for a friend. Sengoku, being the council president, becomes the topic of conversation. Toru mentions how many girls are on the council, hinting that Sengoku only picks girls as members of the student council. Let him live, he worked hard to be the president and now it's time for the reward. Sengoku quickly denies any personal involvement, insisting it's all strictly business. They joke about the perks of using the council room's AC, and Sengoku invites them to come by any time. Later, everyone, including Yuki, Hori, Remi, and Sakura, gathers in the council room. They play rock, paper, scissors to decide who will fetch drinks, and Hori and Miyamura lose. On their way out, Miyamura drops a soda can and some change, delaying them. Back in the council room, Sakura wonders aloud what's taking them so long. Toru panics, imagining the worst. He will do anything but move on. When Hori and Miyamura return, Miyamura hands Toru his can and apologizes. Toru misinterprets it, thinking Miyamura is confessing to something scandalous. Someone's watching too many R-rated movies lately. Overwhelmed, Toru spills his drink on himself, realizing he mistook what Miyamura meant and feels embarrassed. After school, Miyamura visits Hori's house to help with something, but her AC is broken. Miyamura casually mentions that he sleeps naked, which shocks Hori. Dude has zero filter. He quickly clarifies that he wears underwear, but Hori gets flustered, imagining him naked. Didn't we all? She asks to see his tattoos, but when he starts unbuttoning his shirt, she yells at him to stop, accusing him of not getting embarrassed easily. Miyamura reassures her that he does get flustered, sharing a story about his middle school friend Shindo teasing him about having a girlfriend. Later, while grocery shopping, Hori coughs and wonders if she's getting sick. She dismisses the thought, saying only fools get sick in summer. Gaslighting yourself out of a cold is crazy. That's when Shindo spots her, but she doesn't recognize him. Meanwhile, Toru and Miyamura see Hori talking to a guy. Toru assumes he's hitting on her and panics. When Miyamura realizes it's Shindo, he rushes over and slaps him, shocking everyone. The only right way to meet your middle school friends, I guess. Shindo jokes about it, revealing he's an old friend of Miyamura. The group moves to a restaurant to escape the heat. Miyamura reflects on how Shindo was his only friend in middle school, standing by him even when others told him not to. He thinks about how Shindo changed his middle school life, just as Hori has transformed his high school experience. The next day, Hori wakes up with a fever. Sota insists she stay in bed, worrying about her. She hears Miyamura's voice and wonders if she's hallucinating. Miyamura explains that Sota called him over saying that she was about to die. She got a fever and Sota already prepared himself for the worst. He's going far in life. Feeling weak, Hori recalls how she used to act tough as a child when her mom left for work. When Miyamura tries to leave the room, Hori grabs his arm, crying and begging him not to go. Miyamura comforts her, holding her hand and reassuring her he isn't going anywhere. He gently puts her back to bed and says he's called her mom. Before leaving, he tells her he loves her, something he's wanted to say for a long time, and casually mentions there's food in the fridge. This has to be the most minus aura confession of all time. After he's gone, Hori pulls the blanket off her face, panicking. She wonders why he said something so important mixed with something so mundane and questions if he even knew she was awake. Hori fakes being sick to skip school, all because she has no idea how to face Miyamura after he dropped the I love you bombshell on her. Avoiding him forever does sound like a mature solution. Her little brother, Sota, is none the wiser and heads off to school, but on his way, he spots Miyamura casually strolling with some random girl. Sota, being the helpful little gossip that he is, immediately runs home to spill the tea. Journalism at its finest. Hori's reaction? Full-blown panic mode. She's convinced Miyamura is already cheating on her, and with some girl he apparently had his arm around. The audacity, right? Hori's mind goes wild, crafting every worst-case scenario imaginable. She is better than me. I would start planning the funeral. The next day at school, she avoids Miyamura like he's contagious. Miyamura, noticing the sudden cold shoulder, decides to confront her after school. He casually asks if she happened to be awake when he confessed. Because, maybe she slept through his whole heart-pouring confession. He then adds that he knows that she was awake, and that is why he said all that. But Hori isn't about to let him off the hook that easily. Instead of answering, she fires back and asks who was that girl that he was with. Miyamura, confused but honest, explains that it was Chika, Shindo's girlfriend. He explains she had tripped over Shindo and twisted her ankle, and he ended up carrying both of them to school like some sort of overachieving Good Samaritan. Random side quest of the day. Instead of being impressed, Hori gets more furious, not because of the situation, but because Miyamura casually called Chika by her first name repeatedly. How dare he? Apparently, that's a big deal. In her rage, she throws her textbook at him. Miyamura, poor guy, tries to explain that he doesn't even know Chika's last name. Before he can finish, another textbook comes flying. What a healthy form of communication, violence. Despite the bruises, Miyamura is determined and later shows up at Hori's house. To return the weapons, textbooks. They finally talk it out and sort through the misunderstandings. Things calm down until Hori casually drops that she was awake when he confessed. Before Miyamura can react, her dad, Kyusuke, makes his grand, chaotic entrance. Kyusuke's holding a cigarette, and Hori wastes no time smacking him when he refuses to stop smoking indoors. Kyusuke jokes that she's as violent as her mom used to be, which Hori doesn't even deny. Then he turns his attention to Miyamura, teasing him non-stop while Hori begs Miyamura to just ignore the man. Kyusuke suddenly asks if the two are dating, and Hori straight up says yes. These guys have the weirdest proposals and confessions of all time. Miyamura, caught completely off guard, just sits there like a deer in headlights. Later, when Hori's mom comes home, she panics because there's not enough food for everyone. Miyamura, ever the gentleman, offers to leave so they can eat in peace. On his way out, Hori walks him home. They hold hands, finally, some wholesomeness, and Miyamura tells her he wants to slowly learn more about her. As they part ways, Miyamura thanks her and realizes saying goodbye is getting way harder than it used to be. The next day, Toru finds out Hori and Miyamura are officially a thing. He's obviously bummed because, let's be real, he had a thing for Hori. Give this man a consolation hug. But like a true bro, he supports their relationship and assures Miyamura they're still friends. Later, Sakura is busy staring out the window, watching Toru laugh with his friends. She's deep in her own world when Remy interrupts, asking her what's up. Sakura brushes it off, thinking Remy wouldn't get it because she's all cute and slim and basically perfect. Is she also over the age of 18? If yes, what's her number? She just mumbles something about wishing she were Remy and walks away. Later, Sakura starts beating herself up, calling herself hopeless. But then it hits her that Remy is her best friend. So she runs back to the council room, finds Remy there, and talks to her about her crush. Remy, being the ultimate height girl, tells Sakura she looks absolutely adorable when she blushes, giving her the boost of confidence she needed. Yuriko asks Kyusuke how long he's planning to stay with them. Being annoyed at your husband overstaying, what a beautiful relationship. She's clearly worried about his job and wonders if his workplace can survive without him for so long. Before he can answer, Hori walks in and announces that Miyamura has arrived. Kyusuke, confused, asks who Miyamura is. Hori rolls her eyes and reminds him it's her best buddy. Bro has the memory of a 6-month toddler. Kyusuke walks up to Miyamura, takes off his glasses, and stares at him for a moment. Then, with sudden excitement, he says it's really him and starts teasing him. Hori, already annoyed, tells her dad to stop bothering Miyamura. Kyusuke starts rambling about how hot it is and suddenly asks Miyamura to take a bath with him. Stealing your daughter's boyfriend is a win move. Miyamura hesitates but doesn't really have a choice. After dinner, Kyusuke insists that Miyamura stay the night. Sota offers Miyamura his room, but Kyusuke refuses and says Miyamura will sleep in his room. At this point, what genre is this? I'm confused. As they lie down, Kyusuke casually asks if Miyamura wishes he were with Hori right now. Miyamura denies it, but Kyusuke pushes further, asking what he likes about his daughter. Miyamura starts explaining how Hori doesn't judge people by their appearance, but before he can finish, Kyusuke is already snoring. The next morning, Miyamura and Hori leave for school together, but 2 nosy classmates see them walking out of her house. The news spreads quickly, and most students disapprove of their relationship. They just had everyone a side hobby, gossiping. Rumors fly about how Miyamura is weird, and some even joke about Hori having bad taste. Toru, furious about the gossip, tries to comfort Miyamura along with Yuki, telling him to ignore the noise. Worried that he's tarnishing Hori's reputation, Miyamura decides to change his look. He cuts his hair, stops wearing glasses, and immediately catches the attention of his classmates. Ro upgraded from being the weird emo kid to being the hot emo kid. The same girls who were bad-mouthing him the day before suddenly start complimenting his appearance, which leaves Hori visibly annoyed. Later, Miyamura visits Hori's house. Sota gets excited about his new hairstyle and calls Kyusuke to see it. Kyusuke storms in, demanding to know who the stranger is. Autism, final boss. Hori, clearly annoyed, snaps back that it's still Miyamura and asks if he can't recognize his best buddy just because of a haircut. Kyusuke finally realizes it's him and asks if Miyamura got dumped. Hori fires back, saying if she had dumped him, she wouldn't have brought him home. Later, Miyamura and Hori visit Shindo, who gets emotional seeing Miyamura's new look and even tears up. Who knew a haircut had so much power? The 3 share some candy Shindo won in a contest, though most of it consists of weird flavors because Chika ate all the normal ones. Miyamura has Shindo try the cheese-flavored candy while Hori tastes a clay-flavored one. Out of nowhere, Miyamura leans in and kisses Hori, taking the candy out of her mouth. Smooth or gross? You decide. Flustered, Hori tells Shindo that Miyamura just stole her candy. Miyamura, grabbing water, complains about how bitter the clay candy is. The next day, a classmate asks Hori if she's dating Miyamura. Hori confirms it without hesitation. The classmate then follows Miyamura and asks when they're going to break up. Miyamura bluntly replies never. The classmate introduces herself as Honoka Sawada and vows to return before running off. Later, Sawada reveals she has a crush on Hori and tries to compete with Miyamura for her attention. If he loses from a little girl, he needs to kill himself. After some tug-of-war moments, Miyamura grabs Hori and drags her to class, leaving Sawada defeated. After school, Miyamura and Sawada realize they're neighbors. Since Sawada forgot her keys, she ends up hanging out at Miyamura's apartment. Over some cake, they chat, and Sawada jokes about having a brother. Later, Miyamura learns from his mom that Sawada's brother passed away a year ago. Sawada is a real one for using her worst traumas as sarcasm. The next day, while waiting for Hori, some boys from their school approach Sawada to mess with her. Miyamura notices and glares at them, and that's all it takes for the boys to back off. Bro has got that John Cena Reese. He didn't even have to say a word. The two then go back to their usual banter about who loves Hori more until she finally shows up. That night, Hori, Miyamura, and Kyushuke watch a horror movie about a daughter trying to kill her father. Hori casually mentions that she can relate to the daughter, leaving Miyamura a little concerned. Kyushuke, terrified, leaves the room to buy cigarettes. Bro was scared of his own creation. Hori takes the opportunity to ask Miyamura to make a move. Just as they're about to kiss, Kyushuke bursts back into the room, saying he forgot his wallet. Hori, furious, beats him up and threatens to recreate the movie's murder scene. Love women in male-dominated fields. She then forces everyone to marathon all 3 horror movies without bathroom breaks, leaving Kyushuke screaming in terror by the end. Hori, Yuki, Toru, and Miyamura are at the library. Hori asks Yuki if she found the book she was searching for. Yuki says she hasn't and jokes about ordering it online. Hori suggests asking a clerk, but Yuki brushes it off, insisting she'll keep looking. Hori and Miyamura head out, leaving Toru feeling a little down as he watches them. Noticing this, Yuki calls Toru over to cheer him up and drags him to check out some game magazines with her. Because nothing fixes sadness like overpriced gaming content. Later, while taking out the trash with Yoshikawa, Toru accidentally bumps into Sakura, and somehow, coffee spills from the trash onto her shirt. Sakura probably had a different idea of a coffee date with Toru. But I guess this works as well. Toru rushes back to class to grab her something to wear. While waiting, Sakura asks Yoshikawa if she and Toru are dating. Yoshikawa denies it so fast, she might have set a speed record. Toru returns with his sports jacket, which Sakura gratefully accepts. Later, Sakura heads to the council room and chats with Sengoku. She asks what he likes about Remy. Sengoku says Remy makes him feel strong and protective, but also admits she protects him too, just like she does for Sakura. The next day, Sakura returns Toru's jacket, summoning all her courage to offer him cookies she baked. Toru takes them with a big smile, telling her to bring more because they're delicious. Pro tip: bake a guy cookies and he'll never say no. Not long after, Yoshikawa lets a student from another school take the DVD she really wanted for herself. Hori later observes that Yoshikawa tends to let the things she wants slip away without speaking up. Later, Sakura gives Yoshikawa some cookies as thanks for helping earlier. Yoshikawa mumbles that she doesn't want them but takes them anyway to avoid being rude. Hating on the other woman who's trying to take your man is just so fulfilling. Later, she's by the trash bins, holding the cookies and debating what to do with them. Eventually, she eats them and mutters about how annoyingly good they are. Cookies. 1. Self-control. 0. The next day, Yoshikawa asks Miyamura for cake baking advice. He tells her it takes time and encourages her to keep trying if it goes wrong. A week later, Yoshikawa delivers cupcakes to Hori and Miyamura, but they're burnt beyond belief. They look like something straight out of a campfire horror story. Toru unexpectedly shows up, notices the disastrous cupcakes, and eats one after seeing Yoshikawa's bandaged fingers. Despite the terrible taste, he assures her he'll wait for her next batch. Prince Charming takes notes from this guy. Everyone agrees, hyping her up to keep baking. Some time passes, and Miyamura heads to Hokkaido to visit relatives for 5 days, leaving Hori counting the days like it's an Olympic event. Miyamura realizes he forgot his phone charger, which means no texts. Meanwhile, Hori impatiently waits for him to return, watching news reports about airport delays before bolting out of the house. Back home, Miyamura charges his phone, sees her messages, and rushes out to find her. The two bump into each other at the elevator and share a heartfelt hug. Hori thinks about how 5 days felt like an eternity. They've unlocked the long-distance drama club achievement. Later, Hori tells her friends about Miyamura's fear of horror movies. They joke that her love for them could scare him away. That evening, Hori and Miyamura watch a horror movie at her house. Hori pretends to act scared to get closer to him, but she ends up scaring Miyamura more. Mission. Flirt, failed. Mission. Terrify, successful. After some time apart to recover, Miyamura finds Hori face down on her bed, sulking about not being cute. Miyamura reminds her he fell for her just as she is. They share a moment, listening to each other's heartbeats as rain pours outside. Deleted scene from my life. With the storm raging, Miyamura stays the night, and things get intimate between them. Cue romantic thunderclap in the background. The next day, Sota worries Miyamura might take his sister away. Miyamura reassures him he's not taking her, but jokingly asks if he can have her. Sota agrees, and Hori, eavesdropping outside, smiles at their exchange. Later, Miyamura shows Shindo a bite mark on his neck from Hori, who apparently marked him like a territorial vampire. Shindo jokes that it's basically a tag of ownership. Who needs rings when you've got teeth marks? Miyamura dreams of his miserable younger self, who vents about everything. He hates PE because kids toss his clothes in the trash, breaks because he feels isolated, and group work because he's always excluded. Most of all, he despises school events. Little Miyamura flat out says he wants to die. Older Miyamura reassures him, saying things will get better. He promises that friends like Shindo, Toru, Yuki, and even the student council members will come into his life. He adds that someone very special will care deeply for him one day, referring to Hori. Younger Miyamura doesn't seem convinced, but older Miyamura insists that someone amazing is waiting for him. Miyamura wakes up in tears, wishing for Hori. Plot twist. Miyamura's subconscious really out here with a motivational seminar. Meanwhile, Remi reflects on Sengoku, the boy she loves. She admires his soft-heartedness and how, even though he's anxious, he always tries hard. She admits she sometimes pretends to be scared so he can protect her, even though she knows he's scared too. She thinks about how far he's come since they met. She recalls overhearing his friends comparing her and Sakura as Beauty and Beast. Sengoku didn't join in and said they both seemed normal, which made her curious. Later, she approached him and found out he wasn't reading manga but goth. When she said she preferred fairy tales, Sengoku started lending her books. When she visited his house and saw his book-filled room, she was amazed. While browsing, she dropped some books on herself, and Sengoku, instead of laughing, helped her up and started talking about one. It was about the world ending. While Sengoku said he'd do nothing if the world was ending, Remi declared she'd spend all her money on desserts. Classic Disney princess priorities is the existential dread of the internet generation. At school, Sengoku casually mentioned Kamika liked her, but Remi ignored him and asked to visit his place again. Sengoku worried she was giving him mixed signals, but she shrugged it off. Girl was focused. At his place, Remi asked what Sengoku would do if the world was ending tomorrow. He blushed and admitted he'd tell her he liked her. She teased him, but then confessed she liked him too. Afterward, as they grew closer, Remi thought about how much she loved him, his quiet determination, his awkward honesty, and how he's true to himself. Moral of the story: awkward nerds really are the underdog kings of romance. At Hori's house, she paints Miyamura's toenails, explaining she found some old nail polish while cleaning and thought the colors suited him. Miyamura, trying not to mess around, puts his foot on her head, then panics and apologizes. Hori reassures him she's not mad, just surprised. Bro let his intrusive thoughts win. She asks why he's so calm with her but mean to his friends, wondering if he's pretending. Miyamura denies it and jokes about yelling at her. Embarrassed but intrigued, Hori suggests he try it sometime. Confused, Miyamura reluctantly agrees. I think she discovered a new kink mid-conversation. At school, Miyamura is rude to his friends, and Sengoku teases him, asking if Hori put him up to it. Later, while walking with Hori, Yuki, and Toru, Hori asks if she'll ever see this mean side. Miyamura says maybe when she forgets about it, which makes her overly excited. Yikes, someone's got a weird idea of romance. Who knew mean was a love language? In the physics room, Miyamura decides to try yelling at Hori. He corners her, calls her an airhead, and tells her to shut up. Two girls walk in, see the scene, and run away screaming. Embarrassed, Miyamura says he's done, but Hori is thrilled. Aw, nothing like a little public humiliation to spice things up. Meanwhile, Akane confesses to Yuki, who plans to turn him down because she doesn't know him. Miyamura suggests she pretend to have a boyfriend, and Hori volunteers Toru. When Akane shows up, everyone is stunned by how attractive he is. Even Toru feels insecure. After learning Yuki has a boyfriend, Akane leaves respectfully. Hori scolds Yuki for rejecting someone so good-looking. while Toru quietly doubts himself. Poor Toru, thinking he'd stand a chance against a human Adonis. Later, Yuki learns from Remy that Akane has terrible eyesight. Curious, she jokes with Akane that he might have mistaken her for Hori. Akane reassures her that he genuinely likes her. When Hori, Miyamura, and Toru show up, Akane mistakes them all for each other. Yuki whispers to Hori that Akane really needs glasses. Yeah, that or a crash course in face recognition. Is this man even aware of the concept of contact lenses? Hori styles Miyamura's hair, and suddenly, a flock of girls gathers around him, showering him with compliments. Because apparently, the only thing standing between Miyamura and a fan club was a decent hairstyle. Hori, wailing with jealousy, waits until the girls leave before punching Miyamura with enough force to make his ancestors flinch. Toru tries to calm her down, explaining it's not Miyamura's fault, but Hori is too busy grabbing his bag and storming off like a furious anime protagonist. She orders him to follow, and of course he does. What else is he going to do? Argue with his terrifying girlfriend. On the way home, Miyamura tentatively asks if she's mad about the girls. Hori, fighting every urge to unleash her inner rage demon, lies through her teeth and says no. Classic relationship communication at its finest. Before they can settle into awkward silence, Tanahara and his buddy walk by and recognize Miyamura. Tanahara immediately starts reminiscing about middle school, where his main hobby was bullying Miyamura. It's nostalgic really, like a bully reunion special no one asked for. They mock him relentlessly until Hori finally snaps, delivering a beatdown that would make any action hero proud. Afterwards, she calmly dusts herself off and continues walking home with Miyamura, now in a much better mood. Nothing like a little violence to lighten the mood, right? Later, Tanahara meets Shindo and asks about Miyamura. Meanwhile, Hori is busy the next day begging Miyamura to slap her. He refuses, insisting she has the least punchable face in existence. What a romantic. Shindo overhears and asks if it's something sexual, making Miyamura nearly combust from embarrassment. Hori, now on the verge of tears, asks if Miyamura doesn't love her anymore because he won't slap or yell at her. Ah yes, the universal test of love. Domestic verbal abuse. Frustrated, Miyamura finally yells at her, grabs her hand, and drags her off like a reluctant villain. At a convenience store, Hori spots Tanahara and his friends littering. They immediately freeze like deer in headlights and scramble to clean up when she scolds them. She's basically their environmental science teacher now. Relieved that she doesn't beat them up again, they quietly vow never to litter again. Meanwhile, Hori is over the moon when Miyamura finally slaps her and calls her a bitch, leaving Tanahara and his crew in absolute shock. Because clearly, this is a completely normal and healthy relationship. Back at Hori's house, Miyamura turns to her father, Kyosuke, for advice. They sneak into the bathroom to talk privately, but Hori barges in, demanding to use it. This leads to a heated argument between her and Kyosuke, while Miyamura contemplates whether he's accidentally joined a sitcom family. The next day at school, Miyamura realizes he's lost his phone and returns to the science lab to find it. Mizochi, who has a crush on Hori and the personality of a damp towel, offers to call his phone, only for it to ring in Miyamura's pocket. Smooth, Miyamura, really smooth. Mizochi, unable to contain his jealousy, blurts out asking why someone like Hori is with Miyamura. Calmly, Miyamura asks if Mizochi could ever punch Hori. Mizochi, horrified, says no. Miyamura explains that's why he could never be with someone like her. To make his point, Miyamura finds Hori and yells at her, telling her to shut up and calling her a bitch. Hori's eyes light up like it's Christmas morning, while Mizochi stands there, utterly dumbfounded, because nothing says true love like public humiliation. Later that night, Tanahara has a weird dream where he's trapped in a locker with Miyamura, who tells him it doesn't matter where you are as long as you have people who care about you. Dream Miyamura is weirdly profound. Tanahara wakes up, feeling guilty, and visits Miyamura's bakery to apologize. Instead, he awkwardly mentions coming back for cheesecake, because nothing screams "I'm sorry" like baked goods. He learns Miyamura's phone is broken and realizes Miyamura wasn't ignoring him after all. Walking away, Tanahara whispers an apology after waking away and reflects on how much of a jerk he was in middle school. Back at Hori's house, Miyamura finds her yearbook. She tells him not to peek or she will kill him. Death threats are the key to a healthy relationship. They end up talking about how yearbooks are heady and useless yet impossible to throw away. Miyamura admits he hated his middle school yearbook, but is glad he kept it. He then shares how he's slowly getting along with Mizochi and making progress with Tanahara. Character development? Folks, it's happening. Hori and Miyamura are walking home, and she keeps complaining about how cold it is. Miyamura nods along but secretly tightens his scarf. They bump into Tanahara, and the encounter turns awkward fast. Hori, however, gets mad and starts yelling at Tanahara, accusing him of stealing Miyamura from her. Tanahara tries to explain that he's not stealing him and says they've just gotten closer lately. Miyamura can't beat those gay allegations now. This makes Hori even angrier, and she asks if they'd gotten closer than just friends. Tanahara clarifies that he's no Shindo, which only makes Hori freak out more. Honestly, Shindo's living rent-free in her head at this point. Miyamura tries to calm her down, but Shindo suddenly shows up, grinning like he's just won the lottery, and mentions how much time he's been spending with Miyamura playing video games. Hori, now absolutely fuming, nearly explodes. At this point, Miyamura might need witness protection. Tanahara quickly drags Shindo away to defuse the situation. Once they're gone, Hori confesses to Miyamura that she doesn't worry about girls but can't stand the thought of losing him to another guy. Confused, Miyamura promises her that if he ever falls for someone else, it'll be a girl. Great Hori, that's exactly what he wanted to hear. Later, he jokingly tells Toru of Sengoku and Shu that he's been banned from getting close to guys, so they need to stay away from him. Cue Toru stepping back dramatically like he just got sprayed with a hose. Meanwhile, Yuki is out with her older sister, who ropes her into running errands. Suddenly, Akane shows up and greets Yuki. Her sister immediately jumps in, praising Akane's looks and scolding Yuki for rejecting someone so hot. Typical sibling energy, hyping up strangers while dragging you down. Embarrassed, Yuki apologizes to Akane for her sister's behavior and pushes her away. At school, Sakura overhears rumors about Yuki and Toru dating and feels heartbroken. Yuki, feeling guilty, tells Remi that she lied to Sakura about dating Toru. Remi pushes her to admit her feelings for Toru, but also points out how unfair she's being to Sakura. Remi could moonlight as a therapist with this level of brutal honesty. Realizing her mistake, Yuki confesses that she lied, knowing it would hurt Sakura. Alone later, Yuki admits to herself that she wishes her fake relationship with Toru could become real, but she knows that wouldn't be fair. Ah, the classic teen dilemma, wanting what's fake to become real while also avoiding consequences. The next week, Hori, Miyamura, and Toru notice Yuki hasn't been at school and wonder what's going on. Hori is worried, but Toru brushes it off, assuming it's family stuff. Toru's problem-solving skills are at an all-time low. At home, Yuki's sister urges her to return to school, warning her about her attendance. She points out Yuki's habit of never asking for what she wants and reminds her that her baking was really good. Finally, Yuki checks her phone and smiles at Hori and Miyamura's texts. But when she reads a message from Toru saying Sakura confessed to him, her phone slips from her hand and she freezes. She is about to get the character development of her life. The next day, Yuki returns to school. Hori is excited to see her, but Toru pulls Yuki aside to talk. On the rooftop, Yuki complains about the cold and urges him to hurry. Toru tells her about Sakura's confession and admits that Sakura thought he and Yuki were dating. He says he didn't correct her because he promised Yuki to play along. Yuki asks if he would have accepted Sakura's feelings if not for their fake relationship. Toru replies no, adding that Sakura deserves someone better than him. Toru's self-esteem is on sale for free today. Relieved, Yuki still feels guilty for avoiding her feelings. She reflects on how brave Sakura was to confess and feels ashamed of running away from her own emotions. They then talk about the snow. When Toru says it melts because it wants to, Yuki teases him, saying it melts because it gets warmer. He insists he's not entirely wrong. Science takes a hit, but the vibes are unmatched. Later, Sengoku asks Remi if Sakura is dating someone because she seems happier. Remi cryptically replies that it's the opposite and leaves. Remi loves her drama, and she's not sorry about it. In the student council room, Sengoku wonders what she meant. Sakura then walks in, gazes out the window at Toru and Yuki walking happily together, and quietly admits she was rejected before she even got the chance to confess. Sengoku, angry on her behalf, vows to expel whoever hurt her. Bold of him to think he has that power. But Sakura breaks down, crying on the floor. Watching her, Sengoku pieces things together and realizes it was Toru. He reflects that it hurts more because no one is really at fault. Sakura's internal monologue, "Love triangles are fun," they said. Heartbreak builds character, they said. Hori, Miyamura, Yuki, and Toru are casually chatting about siblings when Toru casually mentions Shu is an older brother. Everyone freaks out, asking a million questions. Toru explains that he found out when visiting Shu's house and meeting his little sister, who wasn't exactly warm. Shu then walks into the classroom, completely oblivious, only to get scolded by Hori and Yuki for being irresponsible. Dude didn't even do anything. Later, in the council room, the group hangs out. Hori brings up how Shu is weirdly polite to everyone except Yuki. Shu suggests Akane should start calling everyone by their first names. Akane, clearly panicking, admits he's never done that before. Akane really said, "Social anxiety is my superpower." Shu insists on calling Akane by his first name, while Hori looks ready to throttle him. Hori is 10 seconds away from a murder charge. Just then, Sengoku walks in. Toru and Miyamura immediately start teasing him about getting closer to Yuki. Sengoku, flustered, tries to play it cool, but no one buys it. Hori quietly excuses herself to find Yuki while the boys continue their chaos. Hori left because the IQ in the room dropped too low. Akane agrees to start small and tries calling Toru by his first name. Shu, of course, demands to be next. Miyamura whispers to Sengoku that Akane is officially on his blacklist. Sengoku, confused, asks why. Miyamura deadpans that he's joking. Akane overhears and promises not to steal them. Miyamura, embarrassed, bolts out of the room. Miyamura's entire personality is "I overthink everything." Later, Akane and Miyamura argue in the hallway about who's taller. Sakura walks by, and they both explain the situation to her. Sakura knocks some sense into their heads. Akane realizes and apologizes first, which annoys Miyamura. They then argue about who's better at apologizing. Peak pettiness, arguing over being polite. Sakura just watches in silence, probably wondering how she got stuck with these clowns. Meanwhile, Miyamura asks Sawada her thoughts on the group. She ranks Toru first because he's nice, Sengoku second for being easy to talk to, and Shu dead last for being loud and annoying. Right on cue, Shu bursts into the room, greeting everyone loudly. Sawada panics and hides behind Miyamura. Shu is confused, but Sawada just mutters she can't deal with loud people. "Girl, you're in the wrong anime for that." Later, Shu catches a fever, and Hori forces him to go home. On his way out, he quietly helps Sawada carry a heavy box but leaves quickly to avoid infecting her. Sawada assumes he's mad at her. No, girl, he's just trying not to be patient zero. The next day, Shu is back in full force, announcing his recovery. Sawada, spying on him from a corner, worries aloud to Sakura that Shu hates her. Sakura casually asks if she likes him. Sawada panics, denies it, and then bolts when Shu enters. Shu is left wondering what just happened. Enemies to lovers in progress, folks. At home, Shu's little sister Moto is upset because her teacher mocked her dream of getting into East High. Shu promises not to laugh but ends up laughing anyway. Moto screams at him, bursts into tears, and locks herself in her room. Feeling guilty, Shu promises to help her study. The next day, he asks Hori to tutor Moto, and she agrees. Moto comes over and Hori, being the mom friend, makes her hot chocolate before starting. Moto talks about her struggles, and Hori listens patiently. Meanwhile, Shu is out buying Moto a lucky charm for her exams. Shu's love language is doing the bare minimum, but making it count. Moto and Shu bond quietly later that night, each hoping they're not letting the other down. Cue the emotional anime outro with a soft piano track. Yuki tells Remi she visited Toru's house for the first time. Remi gets all excited, thinking it's romantic, but Yuki shuts her down, saying it's not like that. She rants about how his house is massive, with multiple floors, extra rooms, and a wall-mounted TV. She thought he was a poor plebeian like her, but nope, he's loaded. That's when Toru shows up, and Yuki immediately calls him a rich asshole. Class solidarity? Never heard of her. Meanwhile, Hori complains to Miyamura that she forgot to pre-order a Christmas cake. Miyamura volunteers to handle it, asking her preferences like he's auditioning for the Great British Bake Off. At home, Hori and Sota discuss who's coming for Christmas dinner. Hori wonders if Miyamura will make it, but her dad Kyosuke, hiding under a blanket, says Miyamura must come. He doesn't care if she shows up, as long as Miyamura does. Father of the Year energy right there. When Miyamura visits, Hori asks if he can come to dinner. He says he'll be too busy with bakery work, and Hori plays it cool. But Sota and Kyosuke overhear and beg Miyamura to come like their lives depend on it. Miyamura panics and runs out while they scream his name. Hori just stands there wondering how she's the one dating him when her family acts more obsessed. At this point, she's third-wheeling her own relationship. Later, Toru tells Sengoku and Shu that everyone knows he used to like Hori. Sengoku is shocked, thinking Toru got over her. Then Toru casually mentions that people also know about the whole Sakura thing where she confessed her feelings to him. Sengoku wonders why Toru assumes that he knows. Toru drops the bomb that he has feelings for Yuki but isn't dating her. Sengoku tries to give him love advice, earning the title of Master Romancer. Now that is Aura. Yuki later asks Toru if she can come over to play video games. He hesitates but gives in. At his house, he quietly sneaks her to his room, and Yuki freaks out when he locks the door and takes off his tie. Toru clarifies he's just relaxing at home, not auditioning for a low-budget drama scene. Yashiro barges in to say hi to Yuki and leaves to fetch her cake. Yuki asks if she's his mom, but Toru explains she's just someone who works around the house and constantly interrogates him about Yuki. Yashiro comes back asking if Yuki prefers shortcake or cheesecake and warns Toru not to try anything weird. Toru yells that he wouldn't do anything now that she's there, making Yuki panic about whether he would have if Yashiro weren't around. Relax, Yuki. Toru's too awkward to even try. They finally play video games. At school, Sengoku is cornered in the council room by Remy, who wants him to visit her house for Christmas. He refuses, suggesting his place instead, but she insists on hanging out in her room. When he says no, she starts crying, and the whole room turns against him. Sengoku snaps and admits he can't handle her room because of her dad's creepy bug collection. He dramatically screams about the mantis staring into his soul, Sengoku's true enemy, bugs with a side of emotional guilt trips. Hori later shows her mom her grades, all A's except for arts and PE. Her mom gets sentimental, saying the next report card will be her last before graduation. Hori realizes how different life will be soon. Elsewhere, Akane sees a giant Christmas tree and has a random encounter with Yuki's older sister, who's in a suit after job interviews. They chat about Yuki, with her sister calling her dumber than a bag of rocks. Sibling love is unmatched. Before they part ways, at Tanohara's house, he's sick and fighting with his brother like it's WWE. Meanwhile, Toru and Yuki walk through the snow, Shu has dinner with his sister, and Sengoku sulks on a swing while Sakura encourages him to go see Remy. He panics about bugs again, but Sakura reminds him it's about dinner with Remy, not a staring contest with the mantis. Shindo and Chika share a quiet moment, with Shindo asking her to wait for him to graduate. Graduation, the ultimate romantic milestone. Back at Hori's, she tries to explain to Kyushuk why Miyamura can't stay for Christmas dinner. Kyushuk blames her for not making him come. She explains that forcing him would ruin his bakery's Christmas sales. Miyamura eventually shows up to deliver the cake, and Kyushuk tricks him into coming inside for a warm drink. An hour later, Miyamura tries to leave, but Sota and Kyushuk block him again. Hori scolds them and walks him home. As they walk, Hori suddenly says she wants them to be together after graduation. Miyamura blurts out a marriage proposal, panics, and tries to run away. Hori stops him, saying she'll keep him happy. Miyamura jokes that's supposed to be his line. They share a sweet moment about their future before Miyamura gets a call from the bakery and rushes off. Hori heads home, ready to face her chaotic family again. Step 1 of marriage, surviving Kyushuk's antics. Graduation was just around the corner, and Hori and Yuki were chatting in the classroom when Hori noticed Yuki's locker. It was stuffed to the brim, looking like a junkyard's final boss. Hori sighed and offered to help her clear it out, asking Yuki to sort out what she wanted to keep. Toru and Miyamura walked over, and Toru joked that Hori was acting like Yuki's mom. Miyamura, never one to miss a moment, pointed out that Toru had just as much stuff to take home. Toru fired back, saying Miyamura's locker was no better, and the two of them stood there, weighed down by overloaded bags. Hori rolled her eyes, called them all pigs, and reminded them that they were supposed to take stuff home every single day. Toru and Miyamura, clearly allergic to responsibility, dumped most of their stuff on Hori, who didn't have much to carry. Just then, Shu strolled in, announcing with an air of superiority that he was a good boy and took his things home every day. Naturally, the group piled the stuff they'd borrowed from him right back into his arms. As they stood there, Hori pointed out that Yuki still had the most junk. Shu, trying to be helpful, suggested that the stronger guys should help carry it. Like him, Toru, and well, Hori. Miyamura, expecting to hear his name. Hori, however, was already launching into a rant, and Miyamura scrambled to calm her down. Girl boss energy unmatched. But did Shu just not like other girls her? In the council room, Remy was flipping through a travel magazine, insisting she wanted to go to the zoo. Sengoku, ever the realist, pointed out that the location was far, and Akane chimed in that they'd need a car and a hotel. Instead of being discouraged, Remy got even more excited. Sakura, the voice of reason, told the boys to stop encouraging her. Akane casually mentioned how he couldn't wait to get his license, then suggested that maybe it wasn't about the zoo at all, maybe something else was bothering Remy. Before anyone could blink, Remy tried to bolt, but Sakura caught her and demanded to know what was wrong. When Remy wouldn't answer, Sakura called in Sengoku to hold her while she pinched Remy's cheeks until she caved. Finally, Remy admitted she was scared of graduating and losing her friends. Sakura reassured her that nothing would change, and Akane suggested a road trip once he got his license, maybe to the beach. That instantly brightened Remy's mood, and she started planning the trip with way too much enthusiasm. Remy went from existential dread to influencer mode in 0.2 seconds, respect. Back at Hori's place, she was napping on Miyamura's lap. As he gently brushed her hair, he started reflecting on how much had changed. He thought about how everything started with that small random moment when he helped her brother Sota. If that hadn't happened, life would have been so different. He imagined himself back then, alone, invisible, counting down the days until high school ended. He thought about how Toru and Yuki wouldn't be as close, how Sengoku and Remy wouldn't know each other well, and how Akane would probably still be a stranger. It was a gloomy vision, and Miyamura shook it off, realizing it was all hypothetical now. But for his younger self, it hadn't been hypothetical, it had been reality. Hori stirred awake and saw the thoughtful look on his face. He told her what he'd been thinking, and she smiled, saying their meeting was fate. She leaned into his arms, and they sat there quietly, looking out at the sky. Miyamura thought about how everything felt right now, and how the world seemed to move in the direction he'd always hoped. Graduation day arrived. Sengoku, as the student council president, gave a heartfelt speech on stage. It would have been perfect if Miyamura hadn't sneezed halfway through, making some students laugh and throwing Sengoku off his game. After the ceremony, Sengoku chased Miyamura around the school like a man possessed, only stopping when Toru intercepted him with a compliment about his speech. Miyamura took the opportunity to escape to the rooftop, where he had a brief but emotional conversation with his younger self. His introspection was cut short when someone called him down for the class photo. Back in the classroom, the teacher Yasuda was taking pictures with the girls while waiting for everyone else to arrive. Sawada clung to Hori, sobbing about how she wouldn't get to see her anymore. Hori reassured her that she could visit any time, and Sawada perked up immediately. Sawada gives clingy X energy, but make it wholesome. Meanwhile, Toru ran into Sakura in the hallway. He hesitated but tried to apologize to her. Sakura thanked him instead, saying she'd had a great year, made lots of friends, and would treasure the memories forever. Yuki, who overheard the conversation, felt relieved that the misunderstandings had been cleared up. Later, Akane bumped into Yuki and mentioned the road trip plan. Yuki agreed to join without a second thought, her excitement showing. Outside at the graduation ceremony, Hori's dad, Kyusuke, made a dramatic appearance, shouting for his special boy, Miyamura. Everyone assumed he was Miyamura's dad, and Kyusuke happily played along, insisting on taking a picture with his wonder kid. Hori, predictably, lost it. She shoved her dad and yelled at him to leave while Miyamura calmly took a photo with him. When Hori asked where Miyamura's actual parents were, he said they had to leave early. Hori, still fuming, pushed Kyusuke to the ground. Kyusuke is the ultimate chaos gremlin. Hori's the only one keeping him from a world tour of cringe. As Shu was leaving, he met his sister, Motoko, who had come to see the ceremony. She was surprised to see how different Shu acted around his friends, realizing there was a side of him she hadn't seen before. Hori and Miyamura walked home together, and Hori invited him over for sushi. As they strolled, Miyamura reflected on how close they had become. For the first time in his life, he felt no boundaries between himself and someone else. He thought about what he could do to make her happy and decided that while gifting her the whole blue sky sounded poetic, she'd probably appreciate a cake with extra whipped cream more. Nothing says I love you like sugar and lactose. Yuki is thrilled to visit Kyoto for the first time, though Toru reminds her to calm down. Meanwhile, Miyamura and Hori reminisce about their middle school trip to Kyoto. Miyamura confides in Hori about his concern over public bathing due to his tattoos, joking that he's prepared to go the entire trip without showering. He is truly an inspiration for all men. Miyamura, Toru, and Shu share a room, but Shu, who picks up the hotel key, falls asleep, locking Miyamura and Toru outside. When they finally get in, Miyamura realizes the boys are required to bathe before dinner. At the bathhouse, Toru tries to help Miyamura get out of bathing by claiming Miyamura is unwell, but he clumsily adds that Miyamura is on his period. The only thing that's gonna be bleeding now is Bro's dignity. Later, Hori offers Miyamura her room's bathroom since Yukai is out. Miyamura questions her decision, teasing her about trusting him so easily. Yeah, relationships don't hit till your partner has major trust issues from you. Hori becomes flustered, later wondering if Miyamura really is as innocent as she thinks. The next day, the group explores Kyoto. Shu and Ishikawa are loud and excited, earning a scolding from Yuki. Miyamura notices that boys can use the baths late at night, relieving some of his stress. The true luxury of travel, avoiding public embarrassment one bath at a time. After the trip, Yuki shows Hori all the photos she took. Back at school, Remi Aosaki accidentally sprays Miyamura with water, leading to her suspicion about why he never swims or bathes publicly. Miyamura shares this with Toru, who teases him about the time he caught Miyamura wearing Hori's old sailor uniform. You know, there are levels of embarrassment, and Miyamura found every single one of them. Their conversation is interrupted by Sengoku, who gets dragged into a lighthearted debate about what outfits suit girls better. Later, Miyamura and Sengoku try to convince their English teacher, Shin Yasuda, to let them skip the last day of swimming in PE. Sengoku feels insecure about his skinny frame, while Miyamura wants to avoid showing his tattoos. They make excuses like being on their periods or not owning swimsuits, but Yasuda shuts them down. As long as women aren't getting out of working because of their period, it's all good. They both start questioning how Yasuda even became a teacher, and he calmly tells them that it's because he is smart and likes high school girls. Bro influences Leonardo DiCaprio and Kanye. Yasuda eventually agrees to let them clean around the pool instead. On pool day, Sengoku lends his sandals to Remi, but his feet start burning from the hot pavement. When Remi walks past the pool, Sengoku asks for his sandals back, but she refuses, laughing. Some of the boys notice Remi's feet in the sandals and start getting unusually excited, murmuring among themselves, "Someone please get these men access to VPN." Sengoku, irritated, demands his sandals again, but Remi just smirks and walks away, leaving Sengoku to deal with both his hot feet and the boys' over-the-top reactions. Bro is fighting all the demons at once. Hori is gazing out the student council room window, zoning out as their friends chatter in the background. Shu bursts in like a storm, holding sports day team assignments. Miyamura and Sengoku immediately decide they want nothing to do with it, assuming it'll be another nightmare like swimming class. Their grand solution is a rain dance. It's as effective as you'd imagine. Spoiler: it doesn't work. Clearly, these guys have never watched a weather forecast. To balance boys and girls on each team, everyone gets split into East and West teams. This means going head-to-head with their own classmates. Sengoku mutters that if Yuki and Shu weren't on his team, he'd have flat-out refused to participate. Translation: I am only here because peer pressure is undefeated. Meanwhile, the girls are stuck with cheer routines. Sakura Kano looks like she's about to pass out just thinking about it, convinced she'll humiliate herself like last year. Honestly, public humiliation does build character. Walking home, Hori and Miyamura chat about sports day. Miyamura admits he hated it as a kid because bullying ruined it for him. Hori, always the optimist, tells him to try the 100-meter race because she thinks he's secretly fast. Miyamura looks doubtful but can't help feeling a tiny spark of excitement. Plot twist: that spark dies when he actually starts running. After cheer practice, Sakura is sitting outside, nervously rethinking every bad decision that's led her here. Yuki, who's on the opposite team, decides to help her out anyway. They awkwardly fumble through moves, laughing at how terrible they are. Sengoku watches them through the window, calling them traitors, but he can't help smirking because they actually seem to be enjoying themselves. Let's be real, Sengoku's just mad he has no rhythm to betray. In cooking class, Sengoku, Remi, and Sakura are paired up. Sakura is the only one who knows how to cook, and she's clearly regretting her life choices. Sakura woke up today thinking, I can fix them. She can't. Sengoku manages to cut himself on a potato peeler, because why not, and Sakura drags him off to the nurse's office. In the meantime, Remy takes creative liberties with their curry, throwing in random ingredients. By the time they return, the classroom is filled with purple smoke, and half the students are choking. When in doubt, season your food with chaos. Somehow they salvage the curry, but the rice Remy cooked is a watery mess. It's soup. Call it innovation. Yuki is handing out sports day shirts when Toru suggests Miyamura should join the relay race. Miyamura flat out refuses, reminding him how the track team crushed everyone last year. Miyamura's motto, why try when failure is guaranteed? Hori walks in wearing her cheer outfit, and Miyamura's jaw almost drops. But instead of a cute uniform, she's wearing a black jacket, gloves, and a headband. Hori asks for his opinion, and Miyamura stares before awkwardly muttering it's complicated. He's thinking, is this cheerleading or a crime syndicate meeting? During English class, Hori notices Miyamura sitting way too close to another girl. Her mood instantly darkens. Yasuda, their English teacher, calls on Hori to read from the textbook, and instead of doing that, she channels her rage into a menacing rant. The entire class sits in terrified silence. This is why you don't sit near other girls when your girlfriend is built like a mafia boss. Later, at Hori's house, Miyamura explains that the girl forgot her textbook and he was just helping her. Hori, clearly embarrassed, refuses to admit she was jealous. Miyamura, being the saint he is, doesn't push it. Bro has went and figured out down to the dot. While Hori is outside painting sports day signs, she sneezes from the cold. Mizochi notices and casually drapes his blazer over her lap before walking away. Miyamura shows up just in time to witness this crime against humanity. Without saying a word, he yanks Mizuchi's blazer off, replaces it with his cardigan, and then, out of sheer pettiness, puts on Mizochi's blazer himself. This man just turned jealousy into a fashion statement. When Mizochi comes back, Miyamura scrambles. He takes off Mizochi's blazer, throws it back on Hori's lap, and hides like a guilty cat. Hori barely keeps a straight face as she hands Mizochi his blazer. Once he's gone, Miyamura reappears and Hori stares at him, realizing Miyamura might actually be more jealous than she is. It's giving? I am the drama, and I'm okay with that. Neither of them brings it up again. Hori just smiles while Miyamura sulks. He's probably still plotting Mizochi's downfall in his head. The principal kicks off Katajiri High School's sports day, excited about the clear skies and urging everyone to show good sportsmanship. Because nothing screams sportsmanship like teenagers being forced to care about tug-of-war. However, things take a turn when the sports club president speaks in a gloomy tone, causing the crowd to lose interest. The guy sounds like he's announcing a funeral, not a race. Hori nudges Miyamura, pointing out how everyone is wearing long sleeves, making it easier for him to blend in. Miyamura sighs, saying he's only attending because of her, making Hori blush. Is this a sports day or a rom-com audition? The day continues with various events. Teen West, Miyamura, Toru, and Akina participates in a race. Miyamura asks Toru if the third graders will be racing next, and Toru confirms it without much enthusiasm. That's the energy we need. Peak I'm here because attendance is mandatory. Meanwhile, Hori and her teammates on Team E strategize for their race. Shu, with his questionable green hair dye, proposes they pair up for the three-legged race, but Yuki shuts him down. Shu, buddy, you dyed your hair for this? No wonder she said no. During the third graders' race, Remy messes with Hori by suggesting that Miyamura might be cheering for her, which flusters Hori. Why work hard when you can work smart and just sabotage your competitors? As the race starts, Hori struggles to keep up, but when Miyamura unexpectedly cheers for her loudly, it gives her the boost she needs to push forward. Proof that public embarrassment is a powerful motivator. After the race, Remy admits she deliberately sabotaged Hori to see her react to Miyamura's cheer. That's the kind of villain energy we love to see. Next up is the tug-of-war. Anoka steps up for Team West with high confidence, but they lose. Confidence is great, but it doesn't pull a rope. Miyamura comments on Hanoka's determined look, but they can't win. Anoka sulks over to Hori, lamenting her failure. Anoka's team just learned that determination is no match for a stronger BMI. In the boys' obstacle course, Toru races while his teammates, including Miyamura, cheer loudly. The race ends in a draw, which feels anticlimactic, but at least no one tripped. Because nothing says thrilling sports day like a tie. Riveting stuff, really. The girls' cheer competition follows, with Hori leading Team East and performing a routine that leaves the schoolgirls swooning. when your cheerleading skills make your competitors question their whole personality. Meanwhile, Remy leads Team West, causing a literal epidemic of nosebleeds among the boys. Remy doesn't need pom-poms, her aura alone is enough to obliterate them. Afterward, Sakura shyly thanks Yuki for helping her practice, admitting she might have face-planted without the extra prep. Sakura's confidence is hanging by a thread, and honestly same. In the scavenger hunt, Miyamura is roped in at the last minute to fill a spot. When the event starts, he and Hori grab the same letter, and Hori is shocked to see him there. Miyamura explains he was guilt-tripped into it. He calls it being guilt-tripped, I call it a skill issue. They end up dragging Sengoku to the finish line, and the announcer gleefully declares them joint winners. Poor Sengoku, just an innocent bystander in their chaos. The scoreboard shows Team East leading by 5 points. The next event is the third-year boys' mock cavalry battle. Miyamura and Sengoku are chosen as riders due to their skinny builds. All their insecurities are about to be triggered. Miyamura distracts Sengoku by claiming there's a girl on his shoulders. Sengoku looks away, and Miyamura snatches his headband, securing victory for Team West. Top-tier betrayal. Miyamura just invented psychological warfare for PE class. As the day wraps up, Team West is defeated, and Remy dramatically mourns their loss. Remy acting like they just lost the World Cup, not a school tug-of-war match. Back in the washroom, Miyamura notices his sunburned nose and wonders if his loud cheering was karma. Karma or just the sun reminding him to wear sunscreen like a functional adult. On his way out, he spots Hori still in her cheerleading outfit. He briefly thinks about how beautiful she looks and how unexpectedly fun the day has been, even though his dignity may have been lost somewhere along the way. A win is a win, I guess. Miyamura joins Hori and Soda at her house for a study session before their exams. He complains about struggling with English literature, wishing he could get a medical excuse to skip the exam. Hori retorts that no one gets a medical excuse for quizzes, even though they endure cramps every month. Yeah, Miyamura, try getting through a Shakespeare sonnet while your uterus stages a coup. During their discussion, Hori's father, Kyusuke, walks in and asks if they're studying. Miyamura explains they have exams coming up. When Kyusuke tries to join them, Hori dismisses him, saying there's no space, which prompts Kyusuke to joke about being treated worse each day and whether he should cry. Honestly, someone tell this man he's not auditioning for a daytime soap opera. His theatrics fail to amuse anyone. Later that night, Miyamura wakes up needing to use the bathroom. As he tries to get up, he lands face first on the floor, realizing his legs are tangled with Hori's and Kyusuke's. His attempt to free himself wakes Hori, who shifts, causing Miyamura to scream in pain and beg her to stay still. Hori's movement wakes Kyusuke, who shifts as well, leaving Hori yelping that her legs are being crushed. The three of them are tangled in a mess of limbs. At this point, they could charge rent for this human pretzel setup. Miyamura cries that he'll wet himself if they don't untangle soon. Kyusuke suggests someone make a sacrifice, volunteering to pull hard, but Hori quickly vetoes that idea. Bro has zero parenting skills, but unlimited vibe. Miyamura offers to do it himself, but his plan is rejected. Kyusuke, deciding he has better things to do, falls back asleep. Yeah, because being the comedic relief of the house is a full-time job. Just as Hori manages to free one leg, the mess unravels, freeing everyone. Miyamura rushes to the bathroom and makes it just in time. When he returns, he suggests they sleep in the same directions to avoid waking up tangled. The next morning, Miyamura explains that staying past 7 p.m. at Hori's house led to him falling asleep there. He tells Hori he'll leave earlier tonight. Yeah, because staying longer has clearly been such a good life decision so far. They attempt to study again, but fatigue catches up, and they fall asleep mid-study. Meanwhile, Kyusuke encounters Sengoku on his way home. Recognizing him as Sengoku's son and a childhood visitor to their home, Kyusuke insists Sengoku join him. By midnight, Hori wakes up to find Sengoku asleep on the table and demands an explanation from her father. Kyusuke casually explains that he invited Sengoku over, and they fell asleep while chatting. Apparently, Kyusuke's idea of bonding is ruining everyone's sleep schedule. Hori, unimpressed, tries waking Miyamura, who mutters something incoherent about Shindo in his sleep, confusing her further. Miyamura wakes up and immediately notices Sengoku, questioning why he's there. Hori blames her father, while Sengoku laments missing his bath and supper. Miyamura joins in, prompting Hori to suggest they just bathe at her place. Sure, why not? Turn her house into an unlicensed bathhouse while you're at it. Miyamura whispers to Hori that he can't let Sengoku see his body. Sengoku overhears and teases Miyamura about avoiding showers during school trips. Miyamura reluctantly admits he's self-conscious about his scrawny build. After their banter, they all fall asleep again. Miyamura wakes up to a text from Shindo but decides to ignore it and return to sleep. Hori finds the text and is thrown into a spiral of jealousy and confusion. She tries to wake Miyamura aggressively, but when he wakes up, he mutters something incoherent about Shindo, which angers her even more. Imagine losing sleep over your boyfriend's bromance. Truly Shakespearean levels of tragedy. She decides to start ignoring him. Miyamura tries to lighten her mood by using the orange peel theory and feeds her a slice with his mouth, hoping to distract her. The next day, Miyamura, Toru, and Sengoku sift through Sengoku's childhood photo albums. Miyamura finds a hidden album with a picture of Sengoku and Hori bathing together as kids. Feeling a pang of jealousy, Miyamura confronts Sengoku, who explains that their families were close and Hori feels comfortable changing in front of him because they've seen each other many times as kids. Oh, nothing weird about this, just childhood trauma rebranded as nostalgia. Later, Miyamura and Hori go grocery shopping. While Hori picks out Soda's favorite snacks, they run into Sengoku's father. The tense encounter escalates when Sengoku's father grabs Miyamura by the collar, warning him about the Hori household. Miyamura, bewildered, holds his ground. Bro is wondering if Hori's dad and Sengoku's dad are competing for most dramatic parent of the year. On their way home, Hori explains that her mother's maiden name is Koyanaji and that their parents all attended the same high school. Miyamura imagines what their high school days must have been like, only to be snapped back to reality by Hori asking about his family. Miyamura describes them as ordinary. Back at the Hori household, Kyushu hosts Sengoku and his father. The conversation is painfully dull, with both men struggling to hold interest. Honestly, it's like watching two retired comedians trying to revive their careers and failing miserably. When Miyamura and Hori return, they find the scene awkward. Kyushu casually announces that Miyamura and Hori are dating, prompting Sengoku's father to declare that Sengoku avoids distractions to focus on his studies. The two fathers then bicker like high schoolers, each blaming the other for past misfortunes. Hori tries to bring up Remi, Sengoku's secret girlfriend, hoping he'll confess, but her attempts fail. Sengoku and his father eventually leave, ending the bizarre gathering. Later, Hori munches on oranges while studying with Miyamura. When she asks if he's ready for the math exam, he admits he gave up on it. She says he gave up at the beginning of the school year and should pick it back up. Miyamura ignores her and warns her about eating too many oranges, claiming her nails will turn orange. He cheekily suggests she feed him instead, opening his mouth expectantly. Hori obliges, feeding him 2 slices. When she tries to give him a 3rd slice, he licks her finger clean instead of eating it. Bro pulled out his Rize game. Shu casually asks his sister Motoko why she isn't studying with her friends. Motoko replies that she'll join them later. Shu mentions he got a call yesterday from someone named Kitahara asking for her. Motoko, blushing furiously, demands to know why Shu didn't let her take the call. With a smug grin, Shu reveals he hung up because she had gone to bed early. Then, with big brother energy, he teasingly asks if Kitahara likes her. Flustered, Motoko denies it, saying Kitahara likes another girl, though her voice betrays her feelings. Being a barrier between your sister's crush? That's a level of villainy only siblings unlock. Later, as Motoko paces around, wondering why Kitahara called, Suor pipes up, saying the study session was cancelled due to snow. Motoko scolds him for not telling her sooner. Shu smirks, unbothered, and says she should be grateful for the free time. Ah yes, the free time to spiral into overthinking. Truly a gift. The next day at school, the gang stumbles out of an English essay test like zombies. Miyamura groans about never wanting another writing exam, while Yuki complains about feeling drained. Toru invites Shu to lunch, but Shu receives a suspicious text from Motoko asking him to come home late. Ignoring the request, Shu heads home early, only to find Motoko excitedly preparing sweets for Kitahara. When Shu barges in, Motoko snaps, telling him to get a girlfriend and stop meddling. Their argument is interrupted by Kitahara's arrival, who admires Shu's protective brother energy. Protective brother? More like a sitcom villain with too much free time. While Kitahara and Motoko study, Shu serves bitter tea, clearly trying to be annoying. Kitahara, amused, says he likes it, leaving Motoko frustrated. Shu's plan backfired so hard it did a 360 and hit Motoko instead. A few days later, Kitahara visits again, and Shu joins them uninvited. Motoko kicks him out, claiming she needs privacy to focus. Later, Motoko confides in Shu, saying Kitahara might only talk to her because she reminds him of Shu, making her feel unattractive. Shu brushes it off, bragging that people think he's cute. Motoko retorts that he's still single. Single by choice? No, single by popular demand. Shu insists it's a choice but secretly laments his lack of romance. To prove his charm, Shu asks Toru if he's cute. Toru calls him weird, and Hori overhears, reassuring that Motoko is adorable. Toru suggests Motoko grow her hair out to differentiate herself from Shu. Shu jokes that Kitahara might like him instead, leaving everyone in hysterics. At this point, Kitahara's type is just chaos. The next morning, Shu rushes to school with toast in his mouth, grumbling about his tragic main character energy. He crashes into Yuki, who's also late, followed by a panicked Toru. Upon arriving, they realize third years were supposed to start late. Hori arrives, laughing at their misfortune and teasing their lack of adult supervision. Later, Shu spots Kitahara in the hallway but hides, shoving Toru forward. Kitahara asks for directions, but before leaving, Remy calls out Shu's name, blowing his cover. Kitahara tries to talk, but Shu brushes him off. At lunch, Hori teases Shu about the awkward encounter. Shu admits Kitahara is the boy Motoko likes and says he doesn't want to complicate things. Hori laughs, saying it's obvious Shu is jealous. Shu denies it, mumbling something about focusing on his broke, lonely existence. Shu, the king of projecting his feelings and pretending it's someone else's problem. Hori smirks and says that it sounds like someone needs a kawaii girlfriend. Forget a kawaii girlfriend. This dude needs a personality reboot. The boys gather at Sengoku's house for a sleepover and excitement fills the room. Shu, pointing to the loft bed, declares he wants to sleep there. Sengoku, lounging in his chair, grumbles about the mess but offers to clean. A man who offers to clean? Sounds fruity to me. Shu, unbothered, climbs up. Toru, noticing Miyamura already fast asleep, decides to sleep on the floor. Soon, all three guests are asleep, leaving Sengoku with no space. Imagine hosting a sleepover and being the one person who does not get to sleep. Sengoku really embodies main character energy. Sengoku stands awkwardly in the corner, frustrated by the clutter and lack of space. Shu heads to the bathroom and, noticing Sengoku still awake, asks why he isn't sleeping. Sengoku admits there's no room. No room in your own house? Peak hosting experience right there. Shu rolls his eyes and suggests Miyamura and Sengoku share the loft bed. Sengoku agrees, dragging Miyamura up with him. It's a good thing Miyamura sleeps like the dead because being manhandled mid-sleep doesn't exactly scream comfort. Curious about Miyamura's secretive behavior with his shirt, Sengoku is about to uncover the mystery when Shu catches him in the act. Panic strikes, and Shu wonders if Sengoku is full homo. To avoid further embarrassment, Toru steps in, suggesting the group move the table to make room for Sengoku on the floor and let Miyamura sleep alone on the loft bed. Toru has officially taken on the mom friend role. Someone get him a gold star. The next morning, Sengoku groggily wakes up to Shu laughing in his sleep, causing him to reflexively slap Shu. Can't even let my man be happy in his dreams. As they greet each other, they realize Miyamura is still asleep. Sengoku offers to wake him, but Toru, protective of Miyamura, glares at him. Toru acting like Miyamura is a national treasure that needs protecting. Someone's got priorities. Shu volunteers to help and with Toru, shakes Miyamura awake. Still half asleep, Miyamura groggily complains about needing the bathroom. At least he's consistent, bathroom breaks over morning drama any day. As Miyamura leaves, Shu questions Sengoku's obsession with Miyamura's shirt. Sengoku insists it's just curiosity, but Toru jokingly claims Miyamura is hiding a bazooka. If Miyamura ever wanted to test Toru's theory, the entire class would need therapy. At school, Sengoku presses Miyamura to change into a gray sweater, hoping to catch a glimpse of what he's hiding. Miyamura evades him, and Sengoku corners him, demanding an explanation. Sengoku really out here turning a minor curiosity into a full-blown conspiracy theory. Chill, dude. Miyamura, flustered, runs away, shouting about harassment. Miyamura then runs to Hori's house, too embarrassed to explain. When in doubt, run to the one person who's too scary to let anyone bother you. Classic Miyamura move. Meanwhile, Remy waits for Sengoku outside, shivering in the cold. She scolds him for being late and teases him for a hug and kiss. Sengoku, red-faced, complies. Men in love are my favorite genre. The next day, Sakura asks Sengoku to walk her home, and Hori, noticing, grows suspicious of Sengoku. Yuki quickly changes the subject to prevent her from jumping to conclusions. Hori's ability to overanalyze is a skill and a curse, mostly a curse for everyone else. Remy soon arrives, searching for Sengoku. At a cafe, Toru sees Sengoku and Sakura and eagerly shares the news with Shu, who is excited by the potential opportunity to get closer to Remy. Sengoku overhears and warns Shu stay quiet. Shu's version of quiet is basically loud whispering and finger-pointing. Sengoku should not get his hopes up. The next morning, Sakura gives Remy premium cookies as a reward for her effort during exams. Remy, puzzled, reminds Sakura that she didn't meet the target score. Sakura smiles, saying she got them because she was nearby. Remy, excited, devours the cookies. The moral of the story is, you do not need achievements in life. You just need proximity to people with snacks. As Sakura and Hori walk out of school, Hori casually asks how Sakura's mock exam went. Sakura smiles and says it went well, though inside she's feeling drained by the constant cycle of studying and revising lessons at home, cramming vocabulary during breaks, and never getting a moment to relax. Studying really is just academic cardio, no finish line, just pain. Her only escape is reading manga, especially the spicy ones. Later at home, Sakura lounges in her chair, engrossed in her latest manga. But when the story takes an unexpected twist, her excitement fades. Her face drops in disbelief at the cliffhanger, and she groans about having to wait a whole week for the next issue. It's the worst kind of emotional betrayal. A week later, Sakura rushes to the bookstore, eagerly looking for the latest issue of Weekly Shinobi. Her excitement falters when she sees the empty shelf. Panic sets in as she asks the manager if they've stocked it, only to learn it's sold out. She refuses to order it and leaves, feeling defeated. As she stews in her misery, Akane casually approaches, asking if she's looking for Weekly Shinobi. Sakura gives him a puzzled look, wondering how he knows. He smirks, saying he overheard her dramatic complaints earlier. He then reveals that he has the last copy and offers it to her, telling her the bookstores near his station always have plenty in stock. Sakura can't help but swoon. To her, he's a true hero. The next week, Akane asks Sakura if she's heading to the bookstore again. They chat about manga as they walk, and Sakura admits she's obsessed with Weekly Shinobi. Akane, however, prefers waiting until an entire series is finished. As they talk, Sakura notices some girls whispering and staring at them, which makes her self-conscious. She quickly pulls away, explaining that the girls might get jealous seeing them together. Is this high school or a reality show? Akane, unfazed, tells her she's the cool one, which only makes her blush harder. Later, Sakura casually asks why Akane isn't wearing his glasses. He explains that he switched to contacts since he couldn't find a frame he liked and invites her to help him pick a new pair. She agrees, secretly thrilled. In class the next day, Yuki laughs at the idea of everyone swapping bodies, imagining how funny it would be if Hori acted like Miyamura or Sengoku was bubbly. Sakura and Remy walk in, and Yuki imagines them swapping personalities too, which makes her laugh even harder. Honestly, can we swap Yuki's personality with someone else? I bet it'd be actually funny. Later, Yuki and Hori are studying in the library when Yuki suddenly jumps up, demanding more red pens. Her outburst surprises Akane, who drops his books. As Yuki helps him pick them up, she notices how the book feels cold to her. Akane comments on her cold hands, leaving her flustered. After the bell rings, she asks Toru to check if her hands are cold, but he teases her by squeezing them and placing his hands on her face. Meanwhile, Miyamura is about to leave school when a red scarf falls in front of him. Are we sure we're not in a K-drama right now? Looking up, he sees two boys by a window and realizes the scarf belongs to Hanoka, the lonely student who quickly rushes to pick it up. Miyamura offers to walk her home, reassuring her that things will get better, though she snaps at him, feeling like he doesn't understand her loneliness. I mean, we get it. Our only friend is Wi-Fi too. He calmly replies that she should ignore the bullies and not beg for friends. The following day, two classmates approach Hanoka to thank her for putting up the poster. They explain that a first-year student joined the art club because of it. Anoka feels a small sense of accomplishment, realizing she might finally be able to connect with others. Desperate much. In the hallway, Toru kneels on the floor, searching for Akane's lost contact lens. Akane, standing awkwardly nearby, insists it's no big deal if they can't find it. But Toru is determined. Just as he's about to give up, Sengoku walks in and freezes at the sight. To him, it looks like Akane is punishing Toru, and he panics, running off. Is this a NTR plotline? Someone call the waifu police. Moments later, Toru triumphantly finds the lens and hands it to Akane, who thanks him. Later in class, Hori mentions to Miyamura that Akane skipped their elective again, wondering if he's staying up late or just doesn't care. At this point, this is Akane's world, and we are just living in it. Miyamura spots Akane leaving the school and calls his name, making Hori visibly annoyed. She asks if Miyamura thinks Akane would mind if she called him by his first name too. Miyamura doesn't think so, but Hori clearly dislikes his casual tone. Just then, Remi bursts in with a box of cookies, disappointed to learn Akane just left. She offers some to Hori, who refuses until Remi adds that Sakura made them. Hori immediately changes her mind, and the two girls start bickering over the box. Miyamura, overhearing a conversation about a delayed bus, informs them that Akane, who takes the bus, might not know about the delay. At the bus stop, Akane is lost in thought when Remi suddenly appears, teasing him about hitting on him. Confused, Akane stares blankly at her, and just then, Hori shows up, and the two girls begin arguing, creating a scene. All this looks like a scene from a flop action movie. Hori forgets her lines, and Remi, still playing along, informs Akane about the bus delay. Akane finally figures it out and smiles, realizing they came just to tell him. Waifu material Miyamura then arrives with hot chocolate and hands out 4 cups. Hori offers Akane some cookies from Remi's box, and Akane is touched by their kindness. Remi explains that it was Miyamura's idea to bring something warm because of the cold. As Akane sips his hot chocolate, he gets a text from his father asking if he should pick him up. He looks at his friends and replies that he's fine and enjoying their company. I mean, who skips quality time with friends for boring family get-together? The next day, the teacher warns the class about skipping electives and announces punishments for tardiness, which leaves Akane nervous. Later, as the group hangs out in class, Hori mocks Sengoku's awkward texting habits. The boys laugh, scrolling through his messages, teasing him about how gross they are. Just then they hear a band, and when they look behind they notice that Akane just banged his head on the table. Ouch, that must have hurt. Akane admits he has a weird sleep schedule and struggles to wake up. The group offers solutions, with Miyamura volunteering to give him wake-up calls. Toru jokingly suggests Sengoku send funny texts instead. Someone please get me friends like these. The next morning, Akane's alarm goes off, but he groggily turns it off. His phone rings and Miyamura's voice tells him to wake up, but Akane ends the call. Toru calls next, shouting at him to get up, but Akane stays half asleep. Finally, a text from Sengoku pops up, filled with random emojis and exclamation marks, which shocks Akane awake. At school, he excitedly tells the boys their trick worked. Later, at a vending machine, Sengoku asks Akane why he acts so stiff around most people except Yuki. Akane casually replies that he only feels comfortable with certain people. Sengoku assumes Akane doesn't consider him a classmate and sulks. Toru and Shu find him in a classroom, joking that he's acting like a girl on her period. Sengoku grumbles about Akane dumping him, and Toru recalls how Akane easily hangs out with him. Shu reassures Sengoku that Akane is polite with most people, and Sengoku decides to act normal again. Later, Sengoku and Toru spot Akane and Shu joking in the hallway. Sengoku remarks that Akane is only comfortable with easygoing people, and he stands no chance. He adds that Akane is close with Yuki, who earlier bumped into a wall and apologized to it. Toru laughs, telling Sengoku to loosen up, and even suggests tickling Akane. Sengoku practices on Toru, who squirms away, accusing Sengoku of being too sensual. I thought we would get some bromance. Miyamura walks in and asks why Sengoku is acting creepy. Toru jokes that Sengoku is role-playing as a train molester. Miyamura laughs and asks who he's supposed to be, to which Sengoku calls him dumb. Miyamura pretends to be offended, and Shu and Akane join in. Akane defends Sengoku, saying he wouldn't hurt anyone. Toru lightens the mood, teasing Sengoku for wanting to be like Shu. Miyamura adds that Sengoku had a busy day. First a molester, now Shu. The group bursts into laughter, leaving Sengoku groaning in defeat. Yasuda wakes up in the staff room, confused, and asks the teacher sitting next to him who woke him up. She tells him it was a couple of third graders. Panicked, Yasuda realizes he's late for class. Yasuda's morning is going worse than a tender date with a ghoster in class. He criticizes the students for their low scores, urging them to write answers even if they're unsure. Hori hesitantly raises her hand, but sits back down when the class cheers her on. Yasuda praises her for doing well on her English exam. Just then, Miyamura attempts to ask a question but falters. Yasuda asks the class what's going on, when Yuki enters and bursts into laughter, followed by the class. Yasuda is confused until Yuki hands him a mirror, revealing his hair styled in 2 pigtails. Pigtails of shame, courtesy of Link Unavailable. Mortified, Yasuda storms off to the staff room, muttering about kawaii melons. In the staff room, Yasuda asks Terajima about the missing resource room key, and she suggests checking with Nakamine. Yasuda finds Nakamine, who insists he return the keys but finds them in his pockets. Yasuda sarcastically questions Nakamine's reliability, prompting Nakamine to pull out an absurd number of keys. It looks like Nakamine's lost more things in pockets than the plot of a Game of Thrones season. Toru and Hori laugh, but Yasuda remains unimpressed. Later, Yuki offers to sew Nakamine's coat after noticing his pocket hole. Nakamine agrees, and they talk about their past together. Yasuda, watching from a distance with Toru. Someone is not happy at all. Toru jokes about Nakamine's apparent interest in younger girls. Yuki finishes sewing. Nakamine offers to buy her a drink, but she declines, instead offering to read his palm. Just then, Toru glares at them from a window. Later, Toru asks Yuki about her interaction with Nakamine. She jokingly reads his palm, and Toru warns her not to look crazy. Their bickering is interrupted by Shu, who tells Toru that Miyamura has joined their plan, but it's a boys-only event. Yuki is left out. Later, Yasuda overhears the boys in the student council room talking about size matters and bursts in. He finds them admiring a birthday cake. Well, it's not the cake we all imagined. The boy then tasks Yasuda with keeping the cake cool, storing it in the science lab fridge. This leads to trouble later. That night, Sengoku realizes he's locked in the school and tries unsuccessfully to open the door. He wakes Hori, who scolds him for not noticing they were locked in. She calls for help, and Yasuda arrives, unlocking the door but accusing them of inappropriate behavior. Hori yells at Yasuda, while Sengoku points out it's the fault of whoever locked them in. Yasuda suggests Hori remove her clothes to prove her innocence. Can someone please call FBI now? As it escalates, Terajima enters and saves the students. The next day, Hori narrates the incident to Miyamura, who jokingly asks if she's okay, then asks Sengoku if he survived Hori's inner monster. A man is not a man if he is not afraid of his girl. Before Hori can channel her inner Frankenstein, Yasuda interrupts politely, shocking everyone. Ichiro, the lonely nobody, stands in the hallway, watching Miyamura walk by like the main character in a coming-of-age indie film. Keep staring, maybe one day he'll notice you, and call the cops. Hori rushes up to Miyamura, telling him that a sequel is being made to his favorite horror movie. Ichiro, watching them interact, thinks about how Miyamura used to look cooler back in the day with his long hair, which gave him the energy of a mysterious sad boy. Lost in his thoughts, Ichiro is snapped back to reality by Toru, who asks about a reference book. Before Toru can continue, Ichiro pulls out his phone like a true Instagram stalker and snaps a photo of Miyamura for posterity, and maybe a little obsessing later. Same Ichiro, same. I'd low-key stalk Miyamura too. In the classroom, Ichiro is buried in his novel when Miyamura strolls up and asks what he's reading. Ichiro lights up like a TikTok influencer who just hit 1 million views, excitedly telling Miyamura how amazing the book is and how it's his vibe. Ah, the bookish hype man. 1 minute you're pretending to read a novel, the next you're pitching it like you're on Shark Tank. He adds that he overheard Miyamura and Hori talking about horror elements. Miyamura, in peak awkward fashion, explains that it's Hori who's really into horror, adding that Ichiro and Hori would probably hit it off. Ichiro's smile fades like a failed group project presentation. Seeing this, Miyamura quickly says he likes horror too, and Ichiro immediately flips to hypeman mode, showing Miyamura all his books like a book talk influencer trying to push their latest recommendations. At the Hori household, Kyusu greets Miyamura, announcing he's made chawanmushi. Miyamura lights up like someone seeing 5 stars on Uber Eats, but is interrupted when Hori approaches and starts sniffing him. "Ah, Hori, girl, what are you doing?" That's some next-level sniffing. She accuses him of smelling like Ichiro, claiming she keeps track of everyone's scent to keep tabs on Miyamura. Miyamura looks confused and says he doesn't know how to sniff people like that, adding that it would mean he can't even tell if Hori hangs out with other guys. Their chaotic exchange is cut short when Kyushu calls them to dinner, saving Miyamura from further awkwardness. The next day, Miyamura, inspired by Hori's antics, tries to sniff his friends. Later, he calls Shindo over. Shindo, already suspicious, asks why he's been summoned. Miyamura shushes him, leans in, and sniffs him like a dog trying to decide if this human has snacks. Shindo asks for an explanation, but Miyamura refuses to elaborate, leaving him in utter disbelief. During table tennis practice, Ichiro pulls out his phone to snap more pictures of Miyamura. Toru catches him and asks if he has a crush. Ichiro replies that like is way too basic a word for what he feels. Toru points out that Miyamura has a girlfriend, and Ichiro responds that it's adorable to see Miyamura with Hori. When Toru mentions that Miyamura has friends from other schools, Ichiro starts smiling like a villain in a Disney movie, fantasizing about him. Toru asks if Ichiro is content just watching Miyamura. Ichiro says he'd love to touch him. "Okay, now I need therapy. This got weird way too fast." Toru facepalms and asks why Ichiro doesn't just talk to him. Before Ichiro can answer, Miyamura calls him over to play table tennis. At home, Hori sprays Miyamura with deodorant, annoyed about his time with Ichiro. Miyamura suddenly hugs her and sniffs her, saying he at least knows her scent now. Hori gets mad, claiming she thought he'd finally be rough with her. Nothing says romance like being disappointed your boyfriend didn't give you the emotional trauma you wanted. Miyamura looks at her, and they end up quarreling over it. The next morning, Miyamura walks into class with a bandage on his face. Toru and Yuki immediately ask if Hori hit him. Miyamura nods but explains that after hitting him, Hori got so worked up that she walked into a wall. When Hori vents to her friends later about how Miyamura is hanging out with Ichiro, Remi jokes that she's overthinking because Miyamura isn't hanging out with another girl. She earns a glare from Hori. Sengoku suggests she apologize, while Sakura warns that if she doesn't, she might lose Miyamura, who's always been there for her. In class, Toru complains that Miyamura and Hori's drama is giving him main character in a high school sitcom energy. Miyamura apologizes but spits juice all over Toru after reading a text from Hori saying her period is late. Another text follows saying she's joking. Miyamura realizes she wants to talk and finds her sitting outside school. She cries about her insecurities, and Miyamura kneels in front of her, trying to cheer her up by calling her a kawaii monster. Hori kicks him, yelling about her fear that he'll hate her someday. Honestly, same girl, same. I would hate me too if I was this dramatic. Miyamura laughs, saying he could never hate her. He apologizes, fixing the tension between them. The next day, Miyamura walks into class wearing a hoodie. Yuki comments that it doesn't suit him, but Hori says it's nice to switch things up. Shu arrives in his hideous yellow hoodie, asking for a book. Seeing Miyamura's hoodie, he accuses him of copying his style and tries to adjust it, only to get smacked with a book by Hori. Miyamura says he'd have to be like Shu to pull it off, earning a glare from Hori, who tells him to be like anything but Shu. Later, as they head to lunch, Hori adjusts Miyamura's hoodie and takes a quick sniff. Miyamura, startled, runs off. The next morning while walking to school, Hori grabs Miyamura's hand and drags him into an alley. She sniffs his hand and excitedly says he smells like himself and that yesterday the hoodie smelled like Shindo. Before she can ramble on, Miyamura shuts her up with a kiss, hence proven that sometimes you just gotta shut up your girlfriend's yapping with a kiss. Anoka sprawls on the bed, flipping through magazines as if she's auditioning for a rom-com montage. She suddenly asks Miyamura what color Hori likes. Without waiting for an answer, she guesses pink and red, as Hori seems to favor those. I guess Anoka's been watching too many rom-coms if she thinks colors determine true love. Anoka wonders if they'd look better than blue or white, and asks for Miyamura's opinion. Miyamura, completely uninterested, keeps asking her to leave, but Hanoka ignores him and continues pressing. This feels like every episode of The Office where Jim just wants to clock out. She snaps that Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and she can't wrap Hori's present without knowing her favorite color for the ribbon. She explains that wrapping matters because it makes a gift more appealing, like dressing up a selfie with the perfect filter. When Hanoka asks how Miyamura plans to wrap his gift for Hori, he looks confused, as if someone asked him to explain taxes. Hanoka lectures him about the importance of presentation, and Miyamura finally gives in, asking her to wrap his gift for Hori. Seizing the opportunity, Hanoka presses him again about Hori's favorite colors. Miyamura sighs and admits that Hori likes red and orange. "I swear, I'd rather sit through a 3-hour Zoom call than hear this conversation drag on any longer." The next day at school, Rimi asks Hori if she's getting a gift for Miyamura. Hori casually says no because Miyamura told her he'd get her a cake. Rimi asks what she plans to make for him, and Hori admits she's not sure since she's not exactly a pro in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Hanoka is heading downstairs when a girl from her class approaches her. The girl asks if Hanoka is still friendly with the third years. Hanoka sighs and nods. The girl, looking flustered, confesses that she has a massive crush on a third-year boy who always wears a hoodie. Hanoka freezes and screams internally, realizing the girl is talking about none other than Shu. The girl gushes about how much she likes Shu and says she wants to give him a Valentine's present. She asks if Shu has a girlfriend, and Hanoka assures her that Shu is very much single. Relieved, the girl begs Hanoka to find out what kind of chocolates Shu likes. Later that day, Toru, Shu, and Miyamura are hanging out. Toru points out that convenience stores will be packed because of Valentine's Day. It's like Black Friday, but with chocolate. Shu sulks, complaining that he probably won't get anything from anyone. He glances at Toru and Miyamura, asking what they're planning. Toru shrugs, saying he has no idea, but he thinks Miyamura is trying to learn how to tie a tie. Their chat is interrupted when Hanoka bursts into the room and hides behind Miyamura. Miyamura, confused, asks what she's doing. Hanoka says she's there to see Shu and asks him if he likes chocolates. Shu lights up like he just got a surprise paycheck and starts listing all his chocolate preferences. Toru jokes that Hanoka must be giving Shu chocolates, but Hanoka makes a face and denies it, leaving Toru and Miyamura laughing so hard they almost fall over. I wish I had their confidence to laugh at a situation I'm actively trying to avoid. Back at home, Hori thinks about what Remi said about making something for Miyamura. She goes to the store to pick something up but changes her mind. The next day, she meets Sakura and asks for the easiest dessert recipe. Sakura teases her, asking if she's baking a cake for Miyamura. Hori explains that she wants to do something special for him, but doesn't want to mess it up, which is why she needs a simple recipe. Sakura pulls out a recipe book and flips through it, finding an easy chocolate ganache recipe. That evening, Hori attempts to make the dessert. She serves the first batch to her family. Soda takes one bite and bluntly says it's not great, but Hori's parents eat it anyway, smiling like supportive parents in a feel-good movie. The next day, Hori shows the dessert to Sakura, admitting that it didn't turn out perfectly. Sakura reassures her, saying Miyamura will love anything she makes because it's from her. She adds that she likes the chocolate because it reminds her of Hori's effort. If Sakura isn't the real MVP in this episode, I don't know who is. She's basically Hori's emotional support character. On Valentine's Day, Miyamura hands out little chocolate boxes to his friends before rushing to invite Hori to his place. After he leaves, Hanoka surprises Hori with a beautifully wrapped package. Hori goes into full-on mode, amazed by the effort. Hanoka explains that Miyamura picked the wrapping colors himself. Hori looks around and realizes that the real meaning of Valentine's Day is simply seeing the person you care about smile. Later, when Hori arrives at Miyamura's house, she worries about what he'll think of her chocolate ganache. Deep in thought, she's startled when Miyamura comes out of the kitchen holding a perfect chocolate cake. Meanwhile, we all are out here struggling with the microwave as if it is about to eat us. He explains that he called her over because he didn't know how to wrap it for her. Hori shyly brings out her dessert and hands it to Miyamura. He takes the plate and devours it like he hasn't eaten in days. Smiling, he compliments her effort and says she looked adorable worrying about it so much. Kyusuke narrates his love story to Miyamura, recalling the first time he saw Yuriko, Hori's mother, struggling to carry boxes for the student council. She called him for help, and like the heroic fool he was, he stepped in without hesitation. I mean, who wouldn't help a lady in distress? It's basically 101 of being a decent human. Once they reached the council office, the president ignored Yuriko's effort, which Kyusuke took as a personal offense. He decided to knock some sense into the guy, which, knowing Kyusuke, probably involved more yelling than logic. After that incident, Yuriko and Kyusuke became friends, and he began seeing her as his personal Lily. He's basically her knight in shining armor, minus the shiny armor, more like dude in a hoodie. He recalls another time when Yuriko was being bullied by a girl. Kyusuke, in full knight mode, stepped in, ready to swing. Yuriko stopped him just in time, reminding him that a man shouldn't raise his hand against a woman. Then, with terrifying speed, she slapped the attitude right out of the bully. Kyusuke knew at that moment that she was the one for him, mostly because anyone who can slap with precision and style deserves to be admired. Forget love at first sight, this is love at first slap. Kyusuke reassures Miyamura that Hori's slap is just her way of expressing affection, though Miyamura looks unconvinced. What in the world is this household? When Kyusuke asks why Hori slapped him in the first place, Miyamura admits he has no idea. The next morning, Hori informs Kyusuke that she'll be borrowing one of his shirts because all her clothes are in the laundry. Kyusuke, barely interested, shrugs it off. Meanwhile, Sota comes running in, showing off a new toy Yuriko bought him. Hori lifts Sota's hoodie to mess with him, earning herself a loud tantrum. Kyusuke jokingly asks if she's developing a brother complex, but Hori brushes him off, claiming she just wanted to see if Sota's clothes might fit her. Kyusuke points out that she's way too big, which Hori, being the stubborn brat she is, takes as a challenge. Why in the world is she so annoying? She squeezes herself into one of Sota's purple hoodies, and when she steps out, Kyusuke notes that the tighter fit makes her melons look bigger. Top 10 things to avoid saying to your daughter. Mortified, Hori storms back to her room. The doorbell rings and Kyusuke invites Miyamura inside. Hori rushes down, still determined to flaunt her triumph, but instead of Kyusuke, she faces Miyamura. He laughs lightly at her outfit and Hori, red-faced, demands to know why he's there. Kyusuke explains that he invited Miyamura over. Miyamura teases Hori about her impromptu fashion show, and Hori, realizing she looks ridiculous, storms back upstairs. The Hori household honestly feels like a sitcom on steroids. Later, Sota is coloring in the living room when Hori scolds him for making a mess. Sota defends himself, saying he was about to clean up before she started yelling. They argue back and forth until Kyusuke steps in, clearly enjoying the chaos. Miyamura enters with tea, and the family promptly makes him the judge of the dispute. After listening, Miyamura gently sides with Sota, pointing out he was about to clean up. Hori, feeling betrayed, retreats to her room to sulk. Kyusuke, always the instigator, eggs her on, making her mood even worse. To cheer her up, Sota cleans the mess and proudly shows Hori. She pets his head, praising him, but she still refuses to acknowledge Miyamura. Miyamura tries to win her over by making pudding, but Hori, in full diva mode, refuses to eat it. Later, when she and Miyamura are studying, Sota barges in and demands they play outer space. Miyamura packs up his books, ready to play. Hori asks where Sota got the blue carpet he's using as the spaceship, but he ignores her and declares they're building a villa on the moon. Hori playfully pushes Sota off the carpet and claims captaincy. Messing with younger siblings during playtime is universal. Miyamura asks if they can let Sota back on the ship, but Hori argues that rules are rules. Sota, undeterred, invents a new vehicle to rejoin the game. Miyamura roots for him, which prompts Hori to accuse Miyamura of being a spy. Sota takes advantage of the distraction and bops Hori on the head with a toy. Later, while Sota does his homework, Miyamura remarks how impressive it is that Sota can write kanji. Hori, unimpressed, says it's basic knowledge. Miyamura sheepishly admits he couldn't write his own name in kanji as a kid, sending both Hori and Kyusuke into fits of laughter. That night, Sota notices the sink piled high with dishes and decides to wash them himself. As he's finishing, Hori walks in and starts yelling at him for doing chores alone. That moment when you do the right thing and still get yelled at. Sota's living it. Sota, feeling unfairly scolded, bursts into tears and runs to Miyamura, who calms him down. Miyamura then gently tells Hori she would have handled the situation better, which makes her cry too. Now stuck with two sobbing siblings, Miyamura regrets all his life decisions, like your parents regret having you. Later, Miyamura apologizes to Hori for intervening, explaining that he's an only child and clueless about sibling dynamics. Hori shakes her head, admitting she only gets upset because she feels like he's not on her side. Miyamura smiles and assures her that he is always by her side. Miyamura visits Hori's house a few days later. He greets her warmly, reminding her that she asked him to come early so they could walk to school together. Kyushu pops up, teasing her that she must have stayed up late watching horror specials. Don't we all? Miyamura settles in with soda in front of the TV, where a grim news report details a recent murder in the neighborhood. Murder mystery on TV. Perfect mood for the morning, right? Kyushu joins them, trembling like a leaf due to the cold weather. Noticing that Hori still hasn't returned, Miyamura decides to check on her. Opening her door, he finds Hori passed out. Yeah, I get it. I'd rather nap than face the world some mornings. He helps her get ready, brushing her hair with an intense focus that borders on ridiculous. He ends up styling her hair into a bun, which Hori protests makes her look like she's heading to a party. Miyamura defends his work, admitting he couldn't master a ponytail. This man is a walking green flag. Reluctantly, Hori decides to keep it, not wanting to waste Miyamura's efforts. As they head to school, the compliments on her hairstyle start rolling in. While Hori basks in the attention, Miyamura drifts into his thoughts, wondering which of the girls in their group might also suit a bun. Hori snaps him out of it, beaming as she announces that everyone loves her new look. Miyamura casually calls her cute, catching her off guard. She blushes but tells him that he can do her hair again sometime. The next day, the student council is cleaning out the office. Sakura and Sengoku haul heavy boxes, while Toru and Shu join to help. Rimi arrives, declaring that she threw out all the trash. Hori corrects her, saying she was tossing that random, and instructs Sakura to sort it properly. Hori's low-key the mom of the group, isn't she? Akane enters with a phone he found near the trash, which turns out to be Rimi's. As the group gets busier, Miyamura appears, carrying a box of confiscated items to be returned. Miyamura is like the teacher's pet, but without the grades. Hori asks him about the box, and Miyamura responds that Yasuda gave it to him, who wasn't able to carry it himself. Hearing this, everyone starts poking fun at Sengoku for his apparent lack of muscle strength compared to Yasuda. Amid the chaos, Shu finds an old photo and reminisces about their beach trip. The group laughs. Miyamura recalls how they all became friends. It started with Sengoku returning a math book to Hori, leading to Remi and Toru inviting her to hang out. Yuki, Shu, and Akane joined over time, each in their own quirky way. But for Hori, something still felt missing, until she met Miyamura when her phone fell under his chair. Of course, love started with a misplaced phone. Totally normal. That was their first real interaction. Lost in thought, Miyamura looks at Hori, who watches him intently. She cups his face, asking why he's so spaced out. Miyamura admits he's marveling at all the little coincidences that had to happen for them to share this moment. He adds that even one change might have led to a completely different world. Hori smiles and says it must be destiny. She insists that no matter what, they'll always find each other. Yeah, no one's getting lost in this kind of relationship. Hori continues softly, saying every day has been filled with memories. Some have faded, but others remain as vivid as if they just happened. After their graduation ceremony, she rushes to Miyamura, asking if they're still going to the sushi place. Sushi date after graduation. What a way to end school. Miyamura yells yes, and Kyushu teases that their dad will be thrilled to see him. Hori reflects on how far she and Miyamura have come, from shy glances to this unspoken closeness. Hori looks at Miyamura with quiet emotion, telling him to remember that she'll always be by his side. When she feels lost or sad, she asks him to remind her that she's never alone. Though she doesn't know what the future holds or fully understands everything they share, she knows that as long as they walk this path together, it will always be wonderful. The future's uncertain, but hey, at least they have sushi and each other. Can't relate though.